She traveled across the country for a blind date with a millionaire, expecting charm, elegance, and maybe even a fairy tale. But when Olivia Mason stepped off the plane, she didn't find a man in a suit waiting with flowers. She found 4 restless kids, 1 exhausted man in sneakers, and no mention of the word millionaire anywhere. What was supposed to be one dinner turned into a weekend of spilled secrets, unexpected laughter, and a choice she never saw coming. Because the man she came to meet wasn't the one she found. And yet somehow he was exactly what she needed. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. She had never been the type to do reckless things, not really. Olivia Mason planned, double-checked, made lists, and cross-referenced them. But boarding a plane with a single carry-on and a heart half-packed with hope to meet a man she'd never actually seen in person? That was reckless even for her. Still, the emails had felt real. The late-night calls. The way he spoke about books he never finished and the cabin in the woods he was remodeling with his own 2 hands. It wasn't just that Jacob sounded like someone who wanted to fall in love, it was that he sounded like someone who still believed it was possible. And maybe that was all Olivia needed to believe too. The flight landed just after 5 p.m. Gray clouds pressed low against the mountains and the air smelled like wet pine. She tugged her coat tighter, scanning the arrivals area for a sign with her name or a man in a button-down shirt looking nervously at every woman who passed. Instead, she saw chaos. A stroller flipped on its side. A boy around 8 bouncing a tennis ball against the wall with terrifying accuracy. A toddler sitting cross-legged on the floor pulling goldfish crackers out of a backpack like he was mining for treasure. And in the middle of it, frazzled, silent, and definitely not wearing a suit, stood a man. Tall, worn jeans, gray hoodie, deep shadows under his eyes. He looked up. Their eyes met. "Olivia?" he asked. She blinked. "Jacob?" He offered a crooked smile. "Surprise?" She did not smile back. "Who are they?" she asked, voice tight. He hesitated, then looked down at the children swarming his legs like orbiting moons. These are mine. All of them." 4, he admitted. "So yes. You said nothing about kids." "I was going to. Eventually." "Eventually." Her voice pitched. "Jacob, I flew across the country for this." "I know. And I swear I was going to tell you. I just thought if I said it right away, you'd cancel." "I might have." "Exactly." One of the kids, the oldest, she guessed, pulled on his sleeve. Sem spilled juice in the car seat again. Jacob didn't even blink. "Okay. We'll deal with it." Olivia stared at him at the perfectly imperfect mess he stood in and felt her stomach twist. "I need a minute," she muttered, turning toward the terminal door. Rain had started. Light but steady. She stepped under the awning and leaned against a pillar, willing herself not to cry. This wasn't the plan. She'd imagined wine, candles, a man who would reach for her hand in quiet awe and say, "You're even more beautiful in person." Instead, she got crackers on her shoes and a man who forgot to mention his entire life. He followed her a few seconds later, hands shoved into his hoodie pocket. "I messed this up," he said simply. "I know that." She said nothing. "I don't expect you to stay," he continued. "But before you decide anything, there's something else." "Oh, what, a wife I didn't know about?" His expression didn't change, but his voice dropped. "She passed away 2 years ago." The words knocked the breath from her. Not because she felt sympathy yet, but because she hadn't expected it. "I'm sorry," she said after a pause. He nodded. "I'm not asking for pity. Just honesty. These kids, they're not a surprise to me. They're my life. And I should have told you. But I didn't want you to walk away before you even met me." She crossed her arms. "And what, you thought once I saw how adorable they were, I'd fall for the whole package?" "No," he said softly. "I thought maybe if you saw me for who I am now, not the guy with the money or the last name, you might still sit down for dinner." She looked at him for a long time. Not the hoodie, not the tired eyes, but the way he stood still. The way he didn't offer excuses. Just the truth. A loudspeaker crackled inside the terminal announcing a storm advisory. Flights were being canceled. Roads might be closing. Her phone buzzed. Flight delayed. Indefinitely. Jacob tilted his head. Looks like you're stuck. She let out a dry laugh. Perfect. There's a cabin nearby, he said. Not far. You can take the guest room. I'll keep the kids out of your hair. No expectations. She hesitated, and then against every instinct she'd built since her last heartbreak, she said, fine. One night, he didn't smile. He just turned, called to the kids, and led the way to the parking lot. They climbed into a battered SUV that smelled like crayons and peanut butter. The middle child, curly-haired and suspicious, stared at her from the third row. You're not the babysitter, he declared. Nope. Are you his girlfriend? No. He nodded once. Good. The last one was mean. Charlie, Jacob warned gently from the driver's seat. What? She was. The drive was quiet after that. Olivia stared out the window at the forest pressing in, wondering what part of her life had brought her here, to 4 muddy shoes tapping the seat behind her, a man humming softly to a baby falling asleep, and a storm on its way. When they pulled into the driveway, the cabin was nothing like she expected. It wasn't luxurious. It wasn't polished. But it was warm. Lights glowed in the windows. Smoke curled from the chimney. A swing creaked gently on the front porch. Home. That's what it looked like. He opened the passenger door for her. She stepped out into the drizzle and met his eyes. This isn't what I signed up for, she said. I know. But I'm here now. Yeah, he said, voice low. You are. And though the night stretched ahead full of unpredictable noise and unfamiliar faces, she didn't feel like running. Not yet. The moment she stepped inside, Olivia was hit by a wall of warmth and noise. Shoes scattered by the door. A trail of jackets on the floor. A toddler's plastic truck halfway under the coffee table. The air smelled like laundry and cinnamon. Welcome to chaos, Jacob said under his breath as he tried to stop the baby from chewing on his hoodie string. She lingered near the entry, unsure whether to laugh or bolt. But none of the kids looked alarmed by her presence, just curious, mildly suspicious, and completely unfiltered. This is Olivia, Jacob said, putting the baby down gently in a playpen by the fire. She's a guest, so let's not scare her off. The oldest, maybe 10, held out a hand. I'm Emma. I read at a 7th grade level and I'm allergic to cashews. Olivia blinked. Nice to meet you, Emma. I'll remember the cashew part. Don't worry, Emma added. We don't usually have guests. The last one left after she stepped on a Lego. I get that, Olivia said, warming slightly. Can I braid your hair? Asked the middle girl, maybe 6 years old, with mismatched socks and no volume control. Jacob interrupted before Olivia could answer. Maddie, let's give Olivia 5 minutes to breathe, okay? But her hair is perfect braid length. I'll think about it, Olivia said with a half smile. Score. Maddie whispered loudly. The boy who had spoken in the car, Charlie, if she remembered, was already sprawled on the couch, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She still doesn't look like a girlfriend. I told you she's not, Jacob said, his voice even. I didn't say that was bad, Charlie replied. I just don't get why people pretend. I'm not pretending, Olivia said. I didn't expect to be here either. That made Charlie grin as if she'd passed some unspoken test. Dinner was scrambled eggs, toast, and apple slices. Olivia insisted on helping even though Jacob kept waving her off. You're a guest, he said. But she needed something to do with her hands, and the act of peeling apples while Maddie asked her 1,000 questions felt oddly grounding. She learned their ages. Emma was 10, Charlie was 8, Maddie 6, and Sam, the baby, had just turned 2. Their birthdays were all in different seasons. Their mom used to make theme cakes. Emma liked reading, Charlie liked soccer and also hated soccer. It depended on the day. Maddie liked glitter and yelling, and Sam liked chewing on everything, including his own sock. They called Jacob Dad, but only when they weren't mad at him. They called each other names, giggled constantly, and functioned like a tiny tribe with their own rules. And Olivia unexpectedly liked watching them. Not that she was ready to say it out loud. Not yet. After dinner, Jacob got Sam into pajamas and gave Olivia a soft flannel blanket. She curled up on the worn armchair near the fire, cradling a mug of peppermint tea. The kids had gone to their rooms, the house quieter now, but still alive. Somewhere down the hall, someone was singing a song about dinosaurs and brushing teeth. Jacob finally sank into the couch across from her, rubbing his eyes. "Long day?" she asked gently. He nodded. Emma had a spelling bee, Charlie tried to flush a pancake, Maddie got glitter in Sam's diaper, and I forgot we were out of milk. And then you showed up. Sorry about the timing. I'm not, he said, surprising her. I just didn't plan any of it very well. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice was soft now, no longer sharp. About the kids. He hesitated. Because I didn't think I had the right to ask someone to take on my mess. And because, when we were writing, I felt like I could just be a guy again. Not a dad. Not a widower. Not a disaster. She didn't reply right away. The fire crackled, filling the silence. Finally, she said, "You're not a disaster." His eyes lifted to hers. "Though your house could use a better shoe rack," she added. He chuckled, quiet and real. "I thought I was coming here to meet a man who had everything figured out," she admitted. "And I was terrified I wouldn't measure up. And now I'm the one without a toothbrush and glitter in my hair." They both laughed then. Easy, reluctant laughter. Outside, the rain had deepened, tapping steadily against the windows. Inside, the world felt like a snow globe someone had just set down. Jacob stood after a moment. "Guest rooms down the hall. Extra blankets are in the closet. Bathrooms shared, sorry. I'll survive." He lingered, hand on the doorframe. "Thanks for staying. Even for one night." She gave a small nod. "We'll see how morning goes." And she meant it. But when she lay in bed that night, wrapped in borrowed warmth, listening to muffled footsteps and the occasional soft cry that Jacob went to soothe without complaint, Olivia realized something she didn't want to admit. She wasn't just staying because her flight was delayed. She was staying because, for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone in her aloneness. And that scared her more than she expected. She woke up to the smell of waffles and someone humming off-key. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, soft and forgiving. Olivia blinked, momentarily disoriented, until the sound of Maddie yelling, "Dad, I said no syrup on the EGGS," jolted her memory into place. She was still here, still in this cabin, still wrapped in the blanket he gave her, still in the middle of a life she hadn't planned on entering. She pulled on her jeans, ran a quick hand through her hair, and stepped into the hallway barefoot. The kitchen was already buzzing. Jacob flipped waffles one-handed while balancing Sam on his hip. Emma was setting the table with laser focus. Charlie was drawing something on the back of a grocery receipt and pretending not to care that Olivia had walked in. "Morning," Jacob said without turning. "Hope you like syrup." "I like quiet," she said, rubbing her eyes. "But I can adapt." Sam squealed, threw a spoon, and immediately began sobbing when it didn't bounce back. Charlie grinned. "Welcome to breakfast." She sat down slowly, and within minutes, a plate of waffles appeared in front of her, golden and imperfect. Maddie plopped beside her. "I had a dream you stayed forever." Olivia choked slightly on her first bite. Jacob looked over, raising an eyebrow. Maddie kept talking. "You had sparkly shoes and taught me how to curl my hair, and then we all lived in a pink house and had 2 cats. "Well," Olivia said, regaining composure, "I've always been more of a dog person." "That's okay," Maddie replied with total confidence. "You'll learn." After breakfast, Jacob announced he had to take the car into town to pick up a delivery. Emma would watch the younger ones. Olivia offered to help, but he waved her off. "You're a guest." "You've said that 3 times, she replied. "Stop saying it." He smiled. "Okay. You're a hostage now." When he left, the house grew quieter, though not silent. Emma read on the porch while Sam napped. Maddie pulled Olivia into a living room salon and braided her hair with wild abandon. Charlie hovered around, pretending he didn't care but clearly listening to every word. So he finally asked, "Are you gonna marry him?" Olivia blinked. "Charlie, it's a yes or no question. It's a very big question." He shrugged. "Bigger things happen." She didn't answer. Later, while looking for more towels in the hallway closet, she opened the wrong door. It was a small office, neat, organized, and very clearly not meant to be seen. A folder sat on the desk, half open, with legal documents poking out. A familiar name caught her eye: Kane Holdings. Her stomach tightened. She stepped closer, scanning the top sheet. Custody agreements, settlement paperwork, dates, names. A photo tucked between pages, a woman with light eyes and a smile that looked too forced to be real. The name scribbled on the back: Rachel Kane. Kane. Jacob's last name was Cole. But this woman, she was listed as his wife. She froze, then turned the page and saw the real kicker. Jacob Kane. Not Cole. Not handyman. Not just dad. CEO, partial heir to the Kane estate. Her breath left her in a cold rush. It wasn't the money that did it. Not the lie about his name. It was the fact that he'd let her believe this life was all there was, that he had nothing left to give but a quiet house and 4 kids and a tired smile. But it was only half the truth. She shut the folder quietly, heart hammering. Later that afternoon, when Jacob returned and found her sitting on the porch, she didn't greet him. He noticed immediately. What happened? She didn't answer right away. "You're not who you said you were," she said finally. He went still. "Olivia, you lied to me. Your name. Your past. Everything." "I didn't lie," he said quietly. "I just left that part out." She stood, pacing slightly, hands shaking. "You let me think you were just some guy with a toolbox and a tragedy." "I am that guy." "No. You're a CEO hiding behind a hoodie and calling it humility." "I walked away from that world," he said. "I lost my wife in it. My family. I didn't want it anymore." "Then why keep the name on the custody documents? Why keep it close enough to still be real?" "Because the courts don't care about who you've become. Just who you were when the damage was done." Her anger flickered. "That's not fair," he added softly. "You've been hiding too." She looked up. "You never talk about why you left your last relationship. Why you waited this long to meet someone. You don't even check your phone when it rings." She bit her lip. He stepped closer, not touching. "You came here running from something too." She swallowed. "But I told you my real name." He looked down. "I didn't mean to lie, Olivia. I just wanted one person to meet me without the headlines." Her voice dropped. "And what would have happened if I never found out?" "I was going to tell you." "When?" He didn't answer. "I need to think," she said finally. "About all of this." He nodded. That night, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Olivia stayed in the guest room, door half closed. Jacob didn't knock. The kids sensed something had shifted. Maddie was quieter. Charlie didn't argue at bedtime. Emma barely spoke at all. And in the dark, Olivia lay awake, asking herself one impossible question. Did she want to fall for the man Jacob had become? Or was she already falling for the version that never existed? The next morning, Olivia was gone. No confrontation. No note. Just silence where a coffee mug should have been and a folded blanket on the guest bed. Jacob stood in the doorway for a long time, eyes on the pillow, still holding the shape of her head. He didn't call after her. Didn't chase. Maybe because he knew what she'd seen. And maybe because she looked at him the same way everyone else had, once she found out who he used to be. He didn't tell the kids. Just moved through the day slowly, like wading through water. Sam cried more than usual. Emma set the table for 5 out of habit and quickly removed the extra plate. Charlie asked where Olivia went, but Jacob just said she had to go home. Maddie didn't say anything. She just went to the porch, pulled out her glitter markers, and drew a picture of a woman with big brown eyes and long hair standing next to 4 stick figures, all smiling. She taped it to the fridge with silent defiance. In town, Olivia sat alone in a diner booth, stirring her coffee without drinking it. Her suitcase sat beside her, unopened. She hadn't rebooked her flight. She hadn't even called her sister back. She just needed to breathe. She needed to forget the way Jacob had looked at her when she'd called him out like he'd expected her to leave. Like everyone always did. She hadn't meant to disappear. She just couldn't stay and pretend like nothing cracked. Not after realizing he'd come into her life with layers he never offered to share. Not when she had finally opened up to someone and learned she'd only been offered a version of the truth. Rough morning, came a voice from the other side of the booth. She looked up. A woman in her 50s, salt and pepper braid, kind but tired eyes. Sorry, the woman said, sitting in the booth behind Olivia's. Didn't mean to pry. Just, you look like someone trying very hard not to cry in public. Olivia exhaled. It's that obvious? I used to wear that same face. Years ago. Olivia almost smiled. The woman held out her hand. I'm Karen. I run the flower shop 2 blocks over. Olivia. Karen leaned forward slightly. You here on vacation, sweetheart? Not exactly. Ah. So it's a man. Olivia laughed softly. Isn't it always? Karen nodded knowingly. Let me guess. Says all the right things, gives you the eyes, leaves out just enough to make you doubt everything when it falls apart. Olivia blinked. Something like that. Karen stirred her tea. Let me guess again. Tall. Quiet. Looks like someone stitched together grief and grace in equal parts. Olivia's heart skipped. Karen smiled sadly. Jacob Kane's been a ghost in this town for years. Most people don't know what to do with ghosts. You know him? Olivia asked. I knew his wife. Rachel. Olivia straightened. She was complicated, Karen continued. Beautiful. Driven. But fragile. And Jacob, he tried to hold everything together. Even when it was already breaking. What happened? Karen paused. Rachel struggled. With the pressure. With the spotlight. With motherhood. She left once. Came back. Left again. The last time, she didn't make it far. Car accident. Jacob blamed himself. So did everyone else. But they were wrong. Olivia's throat tightened. He changed his name because the Kane legacy turned him into someone he couldn't recognize anymore. He didn't just walk away from money. He walked away from power. Guilt. Control. All of it. I thought he was hiding, Olivia whispered. He was healing, Karen said softly. Or trying. They sat in silence. Karen reached into her purse and handed Olivia a folded piece of paper. He used to sketch buildings on napkins during coffee. I kept this one. Said it was a house with room for quiet. I think he was building it before he ever met you. Olivia stared at the paper. It was a house. Simple lines. Strong foundation. A porch. A bench. For smaller windows drawn beside the main one. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't rich. But it looked like a place someone wanted to stay. Thank you, Olivia said quietly. Karen nodded and stood. Whatever he did or didn't say. I know this, he's not afraid of love. He's afraid of giving it and watching it disappear again. The paper crinkled in her hand. That night, back at the cabin, Jacob sat alone in the kitchen. The lights were off. The kids were asleep. The air smelled like rain and burned toast. He pulled out the folder Olivia had found and laid it flat on the table. The truth stared back at him. He tried to build a life with nothing left. And somehow it had started to work until someone saw the cracks and assumed they were permanent. He didn't blame her. He just missed her. When the knock came, it was soft. Hesitant. He opened the door slowly. Olivia stood there, soaked from the mist, eyes rimmed red but steady. I'm not here for an apology, she said. I wouldn't give one unless you asked. I'm not angry, she said. That's worse. She shook her head. I'm scared. That I judged you too quickly. That I was looking for a reason not to trust you. Because trusting someone who might leave scares me more than being alone. He stepped aside. She didn't move. I'm not perfect, he said. And I should have told you everything. But this isn't just my mess anymore. It's a life. And I want someone who doesn't flinch when it gets loud. She looked up. And I want someone who doesn't hide behind silence when it gets hard. They stood there, words like electricity between them. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "Good," she replied. "Then maybe we'll figure it out together." He didn't pull her into his arms. He didn't need to, because when she stepped inside, dropped her suitcase by the door, and walked toward the sound of Sam stirring in the next room. Jacob knew she hadn't come back for comfort. She'd come back for truth, and that was more than he thought he deserved. The days that followed weren't perfect. Sam threw up in her shoes. Charlie stormed out during a family board game. Emma accused Maddie of stealing her bookmark, which turned into a full-blown, tear-filled interrogation over a plastic unicorn. But Olivia stayed. She swept floors. She cooked. She helped Maddie paint a cardboard rocket ship and patch Charlie's jeans after he skidded down the driveway too fast on a borrowed skateboard. And Jacob, he didn't say much, but he started to let things be said. He began leaving his office door open. He drew again. Not buildings this time, but small things: a teacup on a windowsill, a sock on a banister, a braid in a little girl's hair, a woman in an oversized sweater sitting quietly in the corner of the room, reading. Olivia watched the shift happen, not all at once, but like the slow thaw after a hard frost. One morning, she found Emma in the kitchen early, flipping through a recipe book. "What are you doing up?" Emma shrugged. "Thought I'd make muffins." "You bake now?" "I want to learn." Olivia smiled. "Then let's learn." They made a mess. The muffins were half-burnt. Jacob ate 3 anyway. On a quiet afternoon, Jacob walked her out to the back shed where he'd stashed a broken rocking chair that used to belong to Rachel. "I kept thinking I'd fix it," he said, running his fingers along the cracked armrest. "But I didn't want to touch it. Like doing something with it would erase her." "It doesn't," Olivia said gently. "It makes room." He looked at her, then really looked. No walls. No half-truths. Just a man tired of grieving alone. They fixed it together. It wasn't perfect, but it held. And so did they. One night, while the kids were watching a movie and Sam had finally passed out mid-snack, Jacob stepped onto the porch where Olivia stood, wrapped in a blanket, eyes on the stars. He handed her a steaming mug of tea. "You didn't have to come back," he said. She took the mug. "But I did." "Still think I'm hiding?" She smiled. "No. I think you're learning to stay in the light." He nodded slowly. She hesitated. "And me? What do you see when you look at me now?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "I see the woman who made all of this real." She blinked. "I was just surviving before," he said. "With them. With everything. Then you showed up, and for the first time, I wanted more." She stepped closer. He didn't kiss her. He just reached out and gently rested his forehead against hers. And that was enough. Later that week, they went into town together for groceries. The cashier, an older man with a name tag that said Hank, looked between them and said, "Well, I'll be." He finally found someone who can match his stubborn. Olivia laughed. Jacob didn't argue. In the parking lot, Maddie tried to convince her to get a dog. Charlie wanted a punching bag. Emma asked if Olivia would help her pick out a dress for the spring concert. Sam just babbled and clung to her arm like she'd always been there. She didn't realize until that moment how much space they'd already made for her. Not just Jacob. All of them. She didn't ask for it. She didn't chase it. She just showed up and stayed. That night, she opened her suitcase to unpack for good. She took out the photo Karen had given her, the napkin drawing of the house with room for quiet. Jacob saw it and smiled. "Still think it's too simple?" he asked. "No," she said, slipping it into a frame. "I think it's the most honest thing I've ever seen." The next morning, she found a new drawing waiting on the kitchen table. A house again. This one had additions. An extra room. A flower box under the window. A swing set in the yard. 2 figures on the porch. One of them holding a coffee mug. The other wrapped in a blanket. and 4 smaller scribbles with varying heights running across the grass. No signature, no name, just a tiny caption in the corner. Home.